Welcome to Swayam MOOC on NGOs and Sustainable Development. I am Rengalakshmi, working with MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, Chennai as Director Ecotechnology Program. MS Swaminathan Research Foundation has been working on sustainable development. In this module, we are going to see how as an NGO, MS Swaminathan Research Foundation has been facilitating sustainable development in the field on agriculture development. When we are seeing foundation, it is established in 1988 with the proceeds received by Professor MS Swaminathan on World Food Prize. So, with that the foundation has been started as not for profit organization and it is recognized by Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, Government of India as a research and development organization. Second, it is Ministry of Finance, Government of India for receiving funds from different CSR agencies, and Ministry of Home Affairs for receiving fund from foreign sources. So, as we see, the vision of the organization is to link science and society for equitable and sustainable development, but the mission is also to develop and demonstrate models of sustainable development to influence policies adopting pro-poor, pro-women and pro-nature approach. These three elements are part of our interventions in operationalizing sustainable development in the field. So, when we move to the program locations, foundation has been working on different agroecologies starting from fragile coastal region, then agrobiodiversity hotspots and also other states wherever vulnerability is higher. In terms of the sites, it is starting from Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Orissa, Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu, that is almost all southern India. Foundation has been working. In agrobiodiversity hotspots, we are working on Assam as well as Orissa and some parts of Tamil Nadu and Kerala. And besides India, foundation is also working in some of the South Asian countries including Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka and Afghanistan. These are the regional centers where MSSRF has been working for quite long time along with tribal as well as marginal farmers. When we move to the focus areas, foundation has been working. There are technologies for adaptation including agriculture, coastal, hill and rain-fed ecosystems. Then coming to securing livelihoods of smallhold farmers including fishers and tribal families. Then the third area is biodiversity and natural resource management, and fourth is leveraging agrobiodiversity for nutrition, and fifth area, that is the cross-cutting one, that is climate change and gender across all four programs. When coming to the research approaches, foundation has been adapting to implement the sustainable development in the field are anticipatory research one, and second one is the participatory research, and third one is the strategic research. So, using these three research components, foundation has been linking science, practice and policy continuum. When we move to the next set of actions, you have been hearing about sustainable developmental goals of UN. So, in that there are 17 goals. Of these 17 goals, almost all goals are related to food and agriculture, but foundation has been focusing very much on 10 different goals. Although it is focusing on other 7 goals also, but still these 10 goals are our priority areas. When we move to sustainable development, it has 3 dimensions. You all must have heard about the dimensions of sustainable development in the previous modules, but here we need to understand how the economic, social and environmental dimensions of sustainable development are working together to have a implementation at the field level. So, when we are talking about agriculture, we need to understand the context. In India, if we have see the statistics, 85% of them are smallholders having very small amount of land holdings, but they operate 45% of the total net zone area of the country, and here the income they are receiving from the farm is very low. It is ranges from 78,000 to 1 lakh per annum. In this most of the income is coming from crop cultivation, that is 47%, followed by animal husbandry, that is 13%, then non-farm business 8%, and wage and salaries again 32%. It constitute the total income for the farm families. And the third important area we need to understand here is the groundwater. Groundwater plays a major role in ensuring the crop production for the smallholders. Of this, in the Indian context, 33% of the districts and blocks are almost declared as a overexploited status, and most of the small and marginal farmers, that is 66%, depends on wells for small scale irrigation to get some amount of assured income to the family. Then coming to the next important natural resource, soil. Here the soil degradation is happening at a faster rate due to the unbalanced use of organic as well as the inorganic fertilizer. Reviving the soil health is crucial for farmers to have a assured income. Then coming to the important social element, that is the gender inequity in the land ownership as well as the productive resources, their access to productive resources. Then credit, as farmers depend on informal credit sources, their part of a cropping system as well as timely operation is affected. So, in that context only 46% of the farmers are getting institutional credit, remaining are depending on informal sources. Then coming to the important element, climate information as well as the climate variability, which is affecting the crop production at a higher level than other technology factors. Finally, the market access as well as the risk associated with marketing plays a major role in making the farmers more vulnerable in the coming days. When we move to the different implementation part, how do we bring sustainability or sustainable development among small and marginal farmers? We used to follow the approach of sustainable livelihood framework. So, in the sustainable livelihood framework, we first understand the vulnerability context, the vulnerability context of the men and women farmers. Here they are affected by shocks and they are affected by seasonality and the trends as well as the changes also happening at a higher speed. So, these are all governed by 5 major capitals. They are human capital, natural capital, financial capital, physical capital and social capital. All these 5 capitals are bringing together some kind of strength to the farmers. It decides the farming community's ability to have a kind of productive agriculture. So, these are all influenced by policies, institutional processes. So, when we are introducing some new technologies, how do we promote these 5 capitals to have a better productivity? For that, we have policies, institutions. With that, farmers are evolving some ideal or suitable livelihood strategies. With that livelihood strategies, the better livelihood outcomes, they are stable yield or higher productivity or good soil and water resource management, that is the livelihood outcomes coming for the farmers. So, in that the 3 major elements, one is the capabilities, that is the capacity of the farmers, mostly knowledge and skill. Second, the assets, both material as well as the social resources. Then the third, activities. These three activities, capabilities, assets and activities, required for a mean of living for the farmers. When it comes to the sustainability, here they have to cope and recover from stresses and also shocks and maintain to enhance capabilities, assets without undermining the natural resource base. So, that is the framework of the sustainable livelihood. So, using the sustainability livelihood, MSSRF has been adopting a 6-step process to operationalize the sustainable development among small and marginal farmers in tribal and rural areas. When you see the different type of activities or different type of phases, one is starting with social mobilization. So, you have to interact with men and women farmers, mobilize them around the technology that you are going to introduce for the sustainable development. That is the initial step. We used to spend quite a good time in understanding the community. Here the community will also understand us, we will also understand the community. Then we organize them into groups, either as a farmer producer organization or as a self-help group federation or farmer interest group. There are many farms, but they have to come together, they have to use the collective capital, collective strength, that is the second element. And the third is the technology incubation. Whatever the technology we are going to try it in the field, that is the third part. And the fourth part is capacity building. Capacity building is the crucial part for the farmers to adopt. Then the fifth element is system management. So, they have to understand the backward as well as the forward linkages and how it should be facilitated in the field context for technology adoption. And the sixth element is the role change. In the role change, as a facilitator, we will take the back seat, and farmer producer organization or any other collectives play a major role in taking forward the initiatives. So, foundation has been adopting this process to operationalize sustainable development in the field context. When we move to the different examples, I am taking 4 cases here for the students to understand better how the sustainable development is operationalized in the field condition. The first one is the bio villages, and the second example is the bio industrial watershed, and the third example is sustainable agriculture. There are few models. Then the fourth one is the eco enterprises. So, in all 4 models, there is a enhancing productivity at one hand, and at the same time it should not affect the natural resources. In fact, it augments the natural resources. So, the productivity as well as the natural resource management goes together. That is the sustainable development in a simple terms one can understand. So, when we move to bio villages, in the bio villages there are 2 elements. One is fostering sustainable agriculture and rural development by mitigating the twin development challenges. The development challenges are, one, degradation of resource base. Resource base here we mean, one is the water, another one is soil, another examples are biodiversity. So, these are all resources available for the farmers to practice agriculture in a sustainable manner, but these resources are undergoing degradation due to several initiatives or several factors. Then on the other side, persistence of poverty. As I informed or said in the previous slide, their income is less than 1 lakh per annum. So, with that, how do they go ahead with economic activities? So, in that bio village, we are using these 2 conditions as a base and developing initiatives. One is integrated resource management, including land, water, nature as well as the human resource. 4 resources can be enhanced to have a good capital base, as I informed earlier. And the second area is technology empowerment. How do we increase their knowledge, skill of the farmers, so that their status of unskilled to skilled can be facilitated in the process. So, here the examples for the degradation of the natural resource management, one is working with farmers, that is the integrated crop and farming system, and the second example is common property resources. So, in that particular village, the common property resources play a major role in providing the ecosystem services necessary for agriculture, including the grazing land and water bodies. On this side, when you see, the persistence of rural poverty can be reduced by promoting skilled employment in the field as well as the multiple livelihoods to have multiple sources of income for the household. And the second important area is improvement in the quality of the life. The quality of life matters for the farming community. So, in that their access to drinking water, that is the safe drinking water, sanitation facilities, health and education plays a major role. So, when you work at the holistic level, then you can understand how the bio village can be a better model to example as a sustainable development in the villages. So, this is one example of the particular village, how the resource mapping has been carried out, and this resource mapping helped us to identify the key actions which can be undertaken under natural resource management, agriculture and livestock improvement, the non-farm as well as the off-farm employment opportunities that one can create to have an additional employment as well as skill for the men and women farmers, then improving the health, sanitation and nutrition activities at the particular village, then knowledge centers to provide a continuous information as well as skills to the farming communities, then some of the civic activities which are necessary for them to have a quality life at the village level. So, it is a kind of an holistic example to implement the sustainable development at the village scale. So, the second model is at the system level, how the sustainable development can be facilitated. So, sustainable development here we mean, if we take an example of watershed. So, watershed has different scales, one is macro watershed, then the micro watershed. So, micro watershed is the best scale to work at a cluster level, and it consists of almost 20 to 25 villages. So, that area can be treated to improve the natural resource management, and how the natural resource management can support for farmers to improve their productivity. So, in that context, conservation of water as well as enhancing the natural resources including land, biodiversity and soil, and using that how the farm productivity can be enhanced, how the farm productivity enhancement can support farmers to have an access to markets by involving in the value chain. So, this is the kind of an system level initiatives. By that the farming community can practice sustainable development at the system level. Here we have taken the system as micro watershed. So, with that the services, access to different services can support farmers to scale up the initiatives at next level. From the micro watershed to macro watershed, these initiatives can be taken it up further. So, here the key drivers of the change one can see, one is equitable access to water, credit and other support services, and bridge the yield gap, because the yield gap is the main factor in reducing the productivity at the farm scale, and increase the value addition activities and the profitability, that is the farm income to the particular farm families. And there is a reduction in the risk, especially from the biotic factors. Then the institution building, as a collective they are coming together to take the initiative forward, and finally due to the collective and the economy of the scale they are moving to market without much issues. Otherwise the risk in the market is affecting the farmers income by 25%. So, when we are working in the field, we have several examples. I would like to quote one example from Orissa, that is a watershed called Tola watershed, that is in Koraput district, where due to this enhancement of natural resources there are benefits related to enhancing the productivity as well as the soil health, water profile, many things associated with that. Here the initial investment as a kind of an intervention, we promoted farm ponds, we promoted open wells recharging system as well as the cropping system which conserve water and at the same time improve the biodiversity in that region. Like that, if we introduce the activities which can promote the natural resource management and at the same time ensure the farmers income, this is a kind of a good example at the system level how the sustainable development can be facilitated. When we come to the next section, the major outcomes related to this system level functioning of this sustainable development. One is physical capital. The physical capital is improved. Here the 162 farmers covered with different land and water management activities and treated more than 300 acres with a good irrigation facility. For the farmers, having the irrigation facility in the field, that supports them to have a stable crop or stable yield from the field. And second comes to the natural capital. Here the natural capital, again the land and water security is ensured due to the different kind of activities like farm ponds or improving the open wells, recharging structures, like that. With these activities the water table has increased, so that ensure the drinking water as well as water for irrigation. Then the third important element is human capital. Here the human capital, through your continuous capacity building and engaging them in the process, you build their skill, you build their knowledge. So, even after your project is withdrawn from that particular space, they will become a lifelong learner to the different technologies and access different government schemes to improve their human capital. And the fourth important element which is necessary for the small and marginal farmers, especially for women farmers, is the social capital. So, the network trust among them is getting enhanced. So, this increasing in the social capital supports them to have their collective action either in natural resource management or to have better market access or any other input access also. Finally, the financial capital. Finance capital, their capacity to negotiate with banks got increased, and they are also saving and as a kind of a group. So, these are all the capitals which got enhanced due to the intervention of the developmental initiatives, altogether supporting sustainable development in that local context. By that, the better indicator which we can normally use is the income, how the household income is enhanced due to these initiatives at the field condition. And coming to the third element, that is agriculture, that is within field, how this sustainable development can be facilitated. So, earlier farmers used to cultivate one crop or two crop based on the water availability or due to the rainfall, depending upon the situation. But when you integrate several elements associated or allied sectors into your crop production, then the employment is also getting enhanced, as well as the productivity and the availability of the producers as well as the yield is ensured. So, there is a model of integrated farming systems. It is developed across different agro ecosystem, that is the context specific elements are integrated to have a elements of diversification one, and second it is a kind of an intensification, and third it is the recycling of resources. So, these three elements are part of this integrated farming system. So, here the important other activities including your soil management, in situ water harvesting, continuous employment opportunities, then the skilled employment for men and women farmers, these are all additional benefits or co-benefits they are receiving from adopting this integrated farming system. So, here also again the natural resources enhancement is happening one side and the productivity enhancement, both ecological security and livelihood security are interlinked here when we adopt the integrated farming system model. An individual farmer can adopt this approach to have a kind of a better livelihood initiatives. So, then the second important element under agriculture, the use of chemicals. The use of chemicals for pest management is very heavy nowadays due to the multiple pests coming and affecting the crop production. Right now, they are depending on input dealers. They are the main source to get the agro advisories, and they are also providing chemicals or inputs which are necessary to control that pest. Without having any knowledge, farmers have been adopting this pest management practices. So, here we introduced a concept called plant clinic, where the farmers are bringing their samples like human clinic, they get diagnosed what is the pest, what is the disease and how it should be managed. So, in that context farmers knowledge is also getting enhanced, and they are implementing informed decisions in the field. So, by that way one can able to reduce the use of chemical pesticides. The impact when you can see in the field, 40% of the farmer who visited the plant clinic have adopted the technology, and it is in the integrated pest management. So, both physical, chemical as well as the biological management practices they are taking, and with that the chemical coming at the end, so that the farmers reduce the use of pesticides for management of the pest. So, in this context when you can see the results much more deeper, the red label chemicals which are very harmful to the environment as well as the human health is almost reduced. So, farmers are also realizing the importance of using a kind of an integrated pest management, and this plant clinic as well as the support, that is the knowledge as well as the skill, helping them to have a kind of an informed decision in the field to practice sustainable development. And here when you see the further impacts, 32% of the yield loss is prevented, and 56% of the farmers started realizing higher productivity or higher farm income of up to 40,000 to 60,000 per acre from the field situation. So, when we move to the fourth example is landless agriculture labourers. In India, almost 60% of the farming communities having very less land, or they are landless agriculture labourers. So, they depend on agriculture for wages, that is their major livelihood. So, in that context how their capacity to support agriculture, and at the same time to have the option of multiple livelihoods can be facilitated in that field. And here the technology plays a role, and how the technology identification can be supportive to create additional employment and at the same time support natural resource management. So, in that context, we one example I can quote here, we have been working in Rediyarchatram block in Dindigul district of Tamil Nadu, where 52% of them are agriculture laborers. So, when we are working with them, identifying the number of days they are getting from agriculture, it is almost 100 and less than 150 agriculture employment days. So, when we are interacting with them, so remaining days they are ideal, and the household is facing a kind of an continuous poverty, and it is a seasonal, where women plays a major role in creating a kind of an situation to find out alternate employment opportunities. So, in that context, we have introduced a technology that is the enterprise based initiatives, where the skill as well as the knowledge can be enhanced, and they can be an entrepreneurs to produce materials which can be supportive to the farmers. So, here we have identified biopesticides, biofertilizers which support sustainable agriculture, and at the same time the employment opportunities as well as creating agriculture workers as skilled entrepreneurs. So, for that we have developed a linkage with the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, where they trained these women to produce many of the biopesticide biofertilizers. So, this is the list which supports them in creating a kind of an enterprise at the local level. Here 2 points we need to understand. One is enhancing their capacities. How do we do that? In the normal training and capacity building programs, definitely it is not possible. You need to involve with them, hand holding, and at the same time every doing by learning, that is the process one need to adopt to support these farmers to acquire skills as well as improve their knowledge on such nuanced technological process. And another important point, the technology appropriation should be happening with their participation. So, they should understand based on the local situation, they can arrange, these are all the facilities, these are all the resources available. So, with that, how the technology can be appropriated to their context, so that the production process can happen without losing its scientific temper. So, continuous process and supporting them in the kind of technology helps them to acquire such high end skills and become an entrepreneurs at the local level. And this is another example of production process of biofungicides, how this landless agriculture laborers are gaining that skill and evolved as entrepreneurs which are useful to the local community to practice sustainable agriculture. And here the issues such as market as well as the finance and backward and other forward linkages plays a major role for them to take forward these initiatives. For them, we make such women members as a kind of an federation. The federation provides these common services. The important common services the federation is facilitating, one is the credit services. They closely work with bank and explain, these are all members trained by universities and researchers, and we have been providing continuous technical skills. The technologies have been appropriated, the units are established by women members. So, with that the credit services are facilitated. Second, the product diversification. So, with 1 or 2 products the entrepreneurship cannot be sustained, the enterprise needs continuous product flow to have a kind of a regular employment. So, for that we again engage them in the product diversification and the necessary legal compliances. The registration under appropriate acts are necessary. For them we need to support. So, the federation is taking those initiatives to provide such backward and forward linkages for the women to continuously adopt such kind of practices which facilitate the sustainable development in the field situation. The next part is the major lessons we are learning from these initiatives. As a kind of concluding remarks, I would like to bring it here. One is balancing the three dimensions. How do we promote economic, ecological as well as the social dimensions? Because when you see these three things together, then we need to identify the activities in such a way how the development can be facilitated in that field. When you come to the social context, here the most marginalized or most vulnerable sections are from rainfed farmers, or from the smallholders, or from farming community dominated by women as a lead farmers. So, you need to understand the context where such kind of initiatives are necessary to bring these three dimensions together. That is one point, that is the basic point. And second, any sustainable development, it should be context specific. Here there is no one size fits approach can be adopted. Here you need to understand the context, you need to spend time with the farmers and other resources which are available in that region. Accordingly, one need to facilitate the sustainable development initiatives for that particular location. And the third, building the capacity of the farmers. They are the main users, there needs to be facilitated in the field, that is very, very crucial. And the capacity building process is a kind of an multiple approach one need to facilitate. And right now there are support from the digital tools, that is also supporting farmers to learn continuously and access different kind of institutions to have the necessary knowledge as well as the skill which are crucial for implementation of sustainable development in the context. Then the fourth one is the co-development, identification of the particular technology, that is the science based one, but customization of the technology plays a major role for the farmers to adopt. That is why the sustainable development can be facilitated in the field. One, at the production, that is not alone sufficient, and at the same time how the associated natural resources can be facilitated in that field. That is the co-development process helps us to see the sustainable development in the field situation. Then the fourth element is networking and linkages for the identified communities with whom we are working, that needs to be facilitated. So, the process of social mobilization to the role change as indicated in the earlier slides helps farmers to adopt a kind of a broader network and linkages with appropriate partners for them to adopt the technologies in a sustained manner. The final one is harnessing the collective power, because the small and marginal farmers have very less land, or landless farmers, they do not have land. So, how their assets including the human capital can be facilitated adapting by bringing them together, so that their economy of scale can be enhanced to have a better impact at the field level. So, with that I conclude this module. Thank you very much for listening.